Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, to all our global audience who are watching us right now live in Facebook. We welcome you to the celebration of Women and World Theater Month with dedicated days focused on forest and water. This is presented to you by International Theater Institute Social Change Network with the Earth Savers Dream Center, UNESCO Artists for Peace, and cooperation with the South-South Cooperation Council, in partnership as well with Women Playwrights International, the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, and the Youth Advocates through Theater Arts in the Philippines. So to begin our international forum today, I would like to call our beloved Cecile Guidotti Alvarez, President Emeritus of ITI Philippines Center, to give a welcome message and an overview of what's going to happen for today's forum.
Well, we really give you a big bear hug, all of our brothers and sisters in the global arena of theater as a force for education and sustainable development. World Theater is such a wonderful platform of the International Theater Institute, which was created by UNESCO right after the war in its desire for global connectivity to ensure that we really stop violence against mankind and Mother Earth. And so uh, we are here in order to celebrate women, their leadership. Why is it so important that they take what you call a center position in actualizing the sustainable development goals? Because they're not only the heart of the home, as we call on our motherland, the place of our birth, as we call on nature, which sustains life, which is Mother Earth, we at once perceive the importance of women in making sure that we are able to fight poverty. This all started as the Millennium Development Goals, 8, and they said it is to cut poverty in half. But the problem still exists. And the UN started calling on everybody ground zero up to try and determine how can we really resolve the problem of peace and social justice and sustainability. And so the Sustainable Development Goals was created and 193 countries signed. And we have an obligation to fulfill it by 2030, or we will really be on the pathway of Armageddon. So this month of March, we have gathered, besides our artists in our country, to join forces with wonderful leaders in different continents in order to highlight what can be done. They're good examples that can be shared, that can be multiplied, that can really be the peaceful bomb that will conscientize the world towards really creating a better world for our children. At this point, we would like to share the special message of Dr. Hans Denker Tholstrup, officer in charge of the Regional UNESCO Bureau for Sciences in the Asia and the Pacific, on the occasion of the International Online Forum for Women's Month and World Theater Week, 27 March 2021, Philippines. Ladies, gentlemen, and friends of the theater, it is my pleasure to convey this message on the occasion of the celebration of World Theater Week in the Philippines. Since last year, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has been particularly hard on the life of live performance sector. Theater and concert halls worldwide have closed their doors and shows have been canceled, placing many cultural professionals in a precarious situation. Some artists have been able to switch to digital means of public outreach as an alternative solution. Yet, I am sure that many of you must be feeling the real joy of the theatrical art, that of the audience and actors sharing emotional moment in a shared physical space cannot be replaced. Because of the ability of theater to engage and speak to our emotions and intellect, it is today employed far beyond its original function as entertainment. UN agencies such as UNESCO have adopted theater as a space for interaction. Through theater, we are able to disseminate messages and engage in a dialogue with the public, allowing for interaction on sometimes sensitive issues. I would like to congratulate all of the cultural professionals and activists who strive to maintain the art of theater through this difficult time, as well as the Philippine Center of the International Theater Institute and its Social Change Network, the Earth Savers, UNESCO Artists for Peace, with the South-South Cooperation Council and the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. I wish to further acknowledge women playwrights who expose delicate social issues and the challenge of the SDGs through their art of storytelling at the webinar and at the DZRH Balintatao Broadcast Theater Festival. Our appreciation also goes to all the outstanding artists of various disciplines receiving the Lamp of Culture and Art Award this time. UNESCO hopes that the time will soon come when we can once again share our tears and laughter at the same space. Signed, Dr. Hans Denker Falstrop. And this is very special this year, 2021, that amidst the pandemic, we are actually in the International Theater Institute celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first Third World Theater Festival and Conference, developing theater in a developing country, that was hosted for the first time in the Philippines. And therefore, this was undertaken with the assistance of Ellen Stewart, who is celebrating her centennial anniversary, and La Mama was actually a host, a refugee center during the time of the dictatorship. So it was like second home. And so we chose to have the face of the North America represented to La Mama because of its support for this kind of providing appreciation of the diversity of culture in Asia, Africa, Latin America, considering as well the importance of ethnic minorities in developed countries. We were able to hold this, and it was in 1967 that the Philippine Center was founded, when we also created the National Theater Movement through the Philippine Educational Theater Association. La Mama was hosting for the first time on the issue of human rights, allowing a center to exist in exile. And that is due to the concern of the ITI for human rights, for peace. And so we chose Sweden to represent Europe because in our efforts to connect the United Nations Development Goals to our efforts in the Philippines and on the arena of connectivity for Asia, Africa, and Latin America, a lady like Ellen Stewart in Sweden, Ingrid Luthercourt of the ITI Center, joined us to develop this movement and hosted an event in Sweden. And then we move into the Asian region. It is important for us that Pakistan is considered because when we were working, and that was my husband who died of COVID, worked for focusing on the value of confronting climate change because of the devastation that it will create. Pakistan, through Prime Minister Bhutto, came to the Philippines, and I had the opportunity to talk to her personally, to come to the Philippines when her staff said she couldn't come because it was Ramadan time and she shouldn't travel. But we convinced her that it was important because the Asia Pacific region would be overrun by the rising sea level if we do not respond to the global challenge of climate change. And then we move on to Jordan, a very good friend of the Philippines. And when we're talking about the Third World Committee that was created through this festival, it is important to note that we had special connections or concerns for Mindanao, and we had to connect with the Arab region. And so Jordan, where there are so many Filipino migrants in Jordan, and the royalty there was very hospitable, we had chosen Jordan in order to present as well their very strong efforts in gender equity. And that's important within the Arab region traditions. Then, of course, we move to Africa. It's so important that we chose Uganda. Why? Because, first of all, it's the first ever performing group of African dancers and musicians came to the Third World Festival. And everybody was in awe and wanted to learn the rhythms, especially about the talking drums. And Moses Serwada led this group. And Moses kept on returning to the Philippines for our Indigenous Peoples Conference, for working out what we called rehabilitation, cultural caregiving to Vietnamese refugees. And that's why we have Uganda, who also is the face of the first African woman to deliver a message for world theater. And finally, we go to Colombia, because Colombia is our special partner, the South-South Cooperation Council, in undertaking under UNESCO patronage, the Sustainable Development Goals Resilient Earth-Saving Art Festival, Forum, and workshops for marginalized groups to show the power of the arts for healing trauma, for sending messages effectively, as well as for the empowerment of vulnerable groups. But now we will be having all these great ladies of the theater and performing arts leading in the actualization of sustainable development goals in their country in their respective continents, and we hope a strong global movement, a creative rainbow army of artists, educators, communicators, scientists working together to build and reimagine a healthier, more peaceful, clean, and safe post-COVID world. And before we give the floor to August Andong, who is going to be our moderator for this evening and heads the Women's Playwrights International, besides co-chairing the Playwrights Committee of our International Theatre Institute Center, which is now headed by former Senator Joe Willina. Let us share first the message very brilliant, multi-awarded actress Helen Mirren from Britain. This has been such a very difficult time for live performance, and many artists, technicians, and craftsmen and women have struggled in a profession that is already fraught with insecurity. Maybe that always present insecurity has made them more able to survive this pandemic with wit and courage. Their imagination has already translated itself in these new circumstances into inventive, entertaining, and moving ways to communicate, thanks, of course, in large part to the internet. Human beings have told each other stories for as long as they have been on the planet. The beautiful culture of theater will live for as long as we stay here. From Helen Mirren, and she can't wait. So we thank the International Theatre Institute, headed by Mohammed Al-Alkam, with the Director General Tobias Bianconi.
Dear Cecile, dear friends, dear participants, on behalf of the International Theatre Institute, ITI, and myself, I congratulate you for holding this international forum on women in theatre arts and sustainable development. The selected highly esteemed panelists are a shining example of female leadership in the performing arts, a leadership that is spearheading artistic, educational, and humanistic initiatives that are making this world a better place to live in, not for a few, but for everybody. Culture and the arts and the education in the arts are crucial for sustainable development. They should be accessible to everyone. The work of today's panelists in this regard is extremely valuable and highly appreciated. I'm sure that the International Forum serves as a source of inspiration and motivation that, step by step, is creating a world in mutual respect, in harmony with nature, a world in peace. It will encourage us in these difficult times of the pandemic, and it will be in alignment with this year's message for World Theatre Day, written by a woman, written by Helen Mirren, who actively supports charities such as Greenpeace and Women for Women. Here is an encouraging quote of her message. The creative urge of writers, designers, dancers, singers, actors, musicians, directors will never be suffocated, and in the very near future will flourish again with a new energy and a new understanding of the world we all share. I wish you an inspiring forum and a very happy World Theatre Day. Thank you.
So we move on now for the wonderful presentations of our panelists. August.
Thank you, Ma'am Cecile, and for that comprehensive overview on what is going to be with this forum tonight. And just to proceed with our forum, we would like to call on a very distinguished guest who will be introducing us about the celebration of Ellen Stewart's and the La Mama Theater Artistic Director, Miss Mia Yu.
Hello, everybody. I'm so honored to be here with all these extraordinary women. When I think about my time on this planet, how I fit into this complex, interconnected ecosystem, I think about my role as a legacy bearer. That doesn't mean that I'm always thinking about the past and trying to bring it back. For me, it means that there are people and ideas in our past that have informed where we are now, to help us shape and reimagine new models and new ways forward. To me, this is the most responsible way for us to look at our future. We must be totally cognizant of the fact that our actions today have consequences, and we can begin to understand this if we process our history and the actions of what has come before us. In many ways, I was very lucky because I grew up within a family of artists. I saw the power of art to transform, whether it was through a shared moment in the audience during a performance when the energy in the room totally shifted. The ordinary perception of time and space was altered, and we would be transported to another place. Or in a transformed artist who visited our home, transfixed on a project or an idea that they were working on, and I could sense there was a necessity and urgency in what they were doing that was changing the way they were seeing and experiencing the world. My own personal legacy of living in an environment where art was valued and thought necessary to help process our world brought me to La Mama, where I encountered some of my greatest mentors, many of them who have been women. Who were these women? Who were forces of nature, complicated, flawed, but bigger than life? Why didn't they have more impact than they did? What and who kept them back? These were women who were committed fully to their mission in life and who did not give up. Women who were nurturers and caretakers of their families and communities. Women who embraced the beauty of life through their relationships to people, and not just to the people in their micro communities, but they thought globally, holistically, and they realized that they had relationships to the macro community that was the world. My mentor, Ellen Stewart, was a visionary. She was the founder of La Mama. The concept of La Mama grew out of a need for a place, for a home, or a home for marginalized, underrepresented voices and communities. Ellen made a home for anyone excluded from the American theater: queer, disabled, Asian, Black, Indigenous, Latinx, immigrant, and international artists. Ellen started as a fashion designer, and before fully committing to La Mama, Ellen had a vision, and in her vision, she was told to find her push cart, and if she pushed it for others, it would show her where she needed to go. Since then, La Mama has supported an alternative artistic community that values relationships, risk-taking, and discovery. With the inclusion of all these voices, we could understand the potential of what was possible in performance and in general art making, art making expanded, changing the aesthetics and ways of storytelling. Art became a vehicle to bring communities and people around the world together to understand our shared humanity. Art for social justice, art for social change became inherent in the work that we do at La Mama. As we continue to deal with the effects of this pandemic, we see the insidious symptoms of a sick society. Beneath the global atmosphere of trauma, isolation, and destructive division, there is an underlying need to find the connective tissue of our culture. Just as Ellen felt the need for a counter-cultural movement, we now feel the need to present new structures of cultural connectivity. We need to establish a grassroots movement of local communities across the world, sharing their perspectives, practices, stories, and rituals, and rethinking the systems that we have in place. For more than a decade, La Mama has been exploring how digital tools can be used to empower emerging creators and make theater making more accessible for artists and audiences who are left out of mainstream cultural conversations. In 2009, we founded our art and technology partner, Culture Hub, with the Seoul Institute of the Arts, and have been testing the possibilities of emergent technologies to transform our cultural landscape. We believe that artists must be part of this conversation in our understanding of the role that technology plays in our lives. We are committed to building projects and partnerships that transform the ways in which audiences, artists, and arts organizations interact. In January, with our partners, the Seoul Institute of the Arts in Korea and our colleagues in Italy at La Mama Umbria, we began to work on a new kind of digital multimedia experience of an opera created by resident artists and another mentor and force, Liz Suedos. This collaboration went wider with artists and technologists in France, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Mexico. Weather was one of the last works of Liz before she passed away in 2016. The goal, as Liz defined it, was to use music and theater as tools to raise public awareness on urgent issues related to climate change. The project was originally a performance piece with a choir, musicians, and a dancer, and it was to be performed again. But due to the pandemic, the work was re-envisioned in a totally new way. People could experience the work of Liz in a virtual space with audiences from around the world joining. The viewer is able to watch the event in an online 360-degree space, interacting with visual and the musical content of the opera. The viewer can uncover stories as well as scientific and cultural references around global climate change. Would love to now show you a video that you can take so you can take a peek into weather. There are images of Liz in a song that connects her energy to Mother Nature. This online, unique experience allows for us to reach people and communities that we could not have reached in a physical theater space. In general, through our online programming at La Mama, we have been able to see that more than double the amount of people viewing our artistic content in one season. With the opening of our 60th season this fall, we are embarking on the next phase of our Radical Access Plan. This plan builds out our institutional infrastructure with online and in-person workshops and dialogue, online and hybrid performance, and other immersive experiences that can go beyond the four walls of our theaters, creating a truly inclusive environment. As people began to gather together again and rebuild their sense of renewed normalcy, we are asking our artists and ourselves, what is the role of art during this time? What kinds of practices and collective experiences are we going to need to reconcile a period defined by fear and isolation? Art has the power to reveal, heal, and transform, especially in times of crisis. Over 6 decades, La Mama has always been emergent. More than a theater company, La Mama is a global network and support system for artists who take risks and dare to imagine better futures. La Mama wants as many people as possible to be part of our community, uniting in solidarity around issues of equity, environmental and social justice, resiliency, and ultimately, we aspire to achieve this with humanity and love. Thank you.
What is hurting people, and if we can heal it for one night, you know, what is upsetting people, can we make them feel better for one night? The choir is made up of human beings, real human beings. I love that. I love the humanity, the working all day and then coming and rehearsing, and no matter what, the learning without knowing music. I love that.
It stands out up in the sky, a colorful trail at dawn or dusk between the earth and the sky. The bride of the wind that delivers love breaks up all the torment and embraces the light. Here's messenger who knows the dead, accompanies her steps with a flap of wings. She is dressed with tears, shining colors, reaches the red and the orange. She is adorned with yellow and green, and sinks into the blue, indigo and violet, where their heart just to bring you a smile. She's instantly good soup and makes you better. With your eyes up, you will return as children, falling in love with this time, less sad and confused. Hibernations, iris reawakens hope, fluttering the rose of dew, while the goddess advances, beautiful and precious. She's the painted arch that cheers up the mood. Look at her, she's there, magnificent, my friend. It's love at first sight. In a sky that turns into the blue, with everyone admiring her, the rainbow.
Thank you, Mia, for that wonderful sharing about how La Mama was able to uplift, women's lives, and then being a more diverse organization, as well as very inclusive in terms of opening it up to a lot of members that can be representative of different identities, cultures, and as well as advocating social justice, resiliency, and as well as, of course, giving a voice to all women out there that needs to be heard, and bring up the issues and concerns that they need to raise among the community, not only in the US but also in the global community. Mom Cecile, you have some short comment?
Yeah, it's wonderful that an Asian American succeeds Ellen, a Black American. And I feel so close to Mia because she was a baby when her dad, who was my classmate in Dallas, did a directing job in PETA and moved them towards appreciating Asian traditions. And when Ellen stood up to defend our proposal, when they said, what, where, the Philippines, a festival, third world, what is it? When she spoke to defend it, we got unanimous approval. And 50 years from now, hopefully in October, amidst the pandemic, but we pray it will disappear, we shall have really the roots of a strong global movement. And we shall have to inaugurate La Mama Philippines Tuitas, the Third World Institute of Theater Arts Studies in the Philippines that Ellen nurtured and became very strongly environmental by caring for me and Sunny and the Earth Savers. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you.
All right, so let's proceed with our next speaker. From the US, we proceed with our colleague and very, very distinguished woman as well. Let me pull. Okay, so she's actually the Director General for Public Relations in the government of the Chief Minister of Punjab in Lahore, Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ms. Saman Rai.
Okay, thank you so very much. And I'm so happy to be talking to all of you. And I think it is a sheer honor for me. It's the first time and I'm so excited about it. Well, I just heard to a very interesting discussion, and already I feel so humble before all the accomplished ladies. But I think it's a great opportunity for me, and I'm really thankful to everyone who made it possible for me to join it today. And coming from Pakistan, I mean, art, language, culture, literature, theater, and coming from Pakistan. I have exciting stories to narrate, but the most important thing that I want to begin in the very beginning, Pakistan is not known for all the positive reasons internationally. This is like a classic case of misperception, because as a country, it is pretty modern, elegant. There are many ladies like me working in the government sector, private sector, NGOs, making a big name for themselves. When it comes to creative arts, we have wonderful artists, males as well as females, working into music, theater, fiction, television industry, movies, brilliant models, fashion houses, boutiques and parlors. But this is like so interesting that this is all happening in Pakistan, but not known internationally. Earlier, like almost 2 years back, I was studying at Australia in a school of public policy. And once there was some bomb blast in Pakistan, and everybody talked to me about it. So I was like, Pakistan, why isn't known internationally for all these best reasons? So today, I think it's an opportunity for me, at least, to be talking about all these wonderful stories. And I think this is like a vibrant art scene in Pakistan in terms of all the fine arts, performing arts, creative arts, visual arts, design, and last but certainly not the least, theater. Theater is taught in the public sector universities. I studied literature and then particularly theater for nearly 7 years of my life. Then I did lots of dramas. I mean, apart from the real dramas in real life that we all the time do, but like lots of, so what I actually see, it is a source of livelihood for people. There are so many women actors who are associated with theater, and they are able to earn their living out of it, make a career, and then make a mark for themselves. And as the previous speaker mentioned, digital technology, I think that is like the real game changer for Pakistan, because now most of the Pakistanis, they are using smartphones. They have access to 4G, internet connections, and most of the people are like using digital apps like YouTube, Facebook users, like nearly almost half of our population is already using internet. So one can easily think that how much creativity is there in Pakistan is going to hit screens very, very soon. So being the government, what did we do to encourage women in the industry? I think, of course, it's difficult for any artist, regardless being a male or a female, to make a is taking good interest and trying to create an enabling environment for everyone. It is like providing an equal opportunity to the people, regardless of their gender. No matter are they like women or men, they will all have an equal opportunity. So when we think of technology, I believe it is like providing an equal opportunity. And then we have creative arts councils working in different parts of the province. And the sole primary responsibility of this arts council is to encourage talent from the grassroots level in terms of playwrights, actors, actresses, no matter they perform to dance, folk dances, music, performing arts, visual arts, or any other genre of creative pursuits. They are all encouraged to come and participate. So I think in the years to come, there will be brilliant, brilliant stories coming out of Pakistan. And that is not just from the province that I work into, but overall, it is quite encouraging. And last but certainly not the least is the film industry, which is also creating a lot of ripples. There are movies which are, earning billions of rupees internationally. And Pakistani actresses, they are also known internationally. And because, Pakistanis, they are so much in number and the number is growing. So when we talk about the industry, because of the similar language in India, it is also understood in Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Pakistan. I think it's like a big, big industry in terms of fashion, beauty, creativity, and then beauty with brains all coming together. And when I say that theater is taught, not just practiced in Pakistan, I believe like I can easily talk about Shakespeare, all the tragic comedies. Rather, I believe Shakespeare that he is still ruling the industry because all the romance narratives out of his comedies and tragedies and tragic comedies and all the love affairs out of his pages and all the trends of appreciating the beauty of a beautiful lady that is still ruling all of us. And I can quote lots of narratives and verses because it is so close to our culture. Yesterday night I shared a few pictures of a wedding ceremony, and that was just a normal wedding ceremony, but the bride, she looked just like a princess out of fairy tales. So what we can easily understand is like a lot of drama and theater taking place all around, lots of rituals and narratives and celebrations. But when we come to the problematic issues and the sides of our life, I believe that theater is for awareness, not just for entertainment purposes. So my most of the emphasis now in the while working in the government sector, that all these things are need to be taken very seriously, not just as a frivolous part of our lives or entertainment only, because somehow I don't know, but in Pakistan all these things are considered as superfluous but not taken very seriously. Though we all understand that theater is for making such powerful statements. Sometimes, one poem, one painting, one dialogue is worth millions of dollars. And it is there to make a mark and it is there to stay forever. One scene, maybe, out of some movie or just one dialogue out of a theater script that carries so much value. So I think one serious aspect is that if it is about sense of deprivation, gender stereotyping, then theater is making a lot of ripples in Pakistan. It is being taken very seriously. Huge investment is being made into it to encourage the industry, to create an enabling environment. And when we sort of talk about the ecosystem, then not just one drama, then we need to have lots of dramas, then we need to make an enabling environment for lots of women to opt for careers into acting and become established actors, not just at a local level, provincial level, national level, rather on an international level. And I think, women in theater arts and SDGs, today it is a platform, it is a topic for me, and it is such a wonderful opportunity, which probably will grow with the passage of time. And we will be able to share lots of beautiful stories in the days to come. Not just me, because I work in the government sector, I can talk on behalf of millions of women, but I believe that through me, I would be able to create a lot of more platforms where women's stories can be heard. And then I believe that it is not just theater, it is about articulating and showing on the digital platforms. And recently, like we did one digital exhibition where we created a virtual tour of fine arts works by nearly 300 female painters from all over Pakistan. And I think each painting was a statement. And that was created from all over Pakistan. It was created in a virtual tour form. And then the same virtual tour was showcased by global actors, media houses like BBC, like Voice of America. So I think, the Corona crisis, though it is a crisis, I believe, but it has provided us a big opportunity. We have changed our old methods altogether. Now, I think through digital platforms and representation, we are able to connect with the people internationally. And the footfall, which is probably the end point, the footfall has increased from hundreds to millions and from millions to billions. And I think this is all because of the blessings of the Corona crisis, because at least in Pakistan, we have revolutionized our working practices. And now, a Zoom webinar is so much a reality. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Saman. That is, I will definitely agree with you that theater is not only for, entertainment. In fact, right now in the 21st century, it is actually the century of the creative, according to UNITAR, UN Institute for Training and Research. And like you, I also work in the government, so I kind of cross over already from arts to government service as well. So I kind of relate on what you were saying about investment and pushing importance for theater. But we'll discuss that more later in the open forum. Let's proceed with our next distinguished speaker in the panel. So let's proceed with a strong woman from Jordan. She's actually a founder and director general for the National Center for Culture and the Arts, or NCCA, from King Hussein Foundation since 1987. She's also the director of Annual International Arab Youth Congress since 1984, and she is actually the Secretary General of International Theater Institute in Jordan Center. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ms. Lena Attel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, August and Cecile and Victor and all the organizers of this wonderful event. Warm greetings to all the viewers, global viewers. I'm really privileged to be amongst this distinguished group of women artists. And it's a privilege also to talk about the performing arts scene in Jordan, and in celebration of Women's Day, and also International Theater, the International Theater Month. Well, I would like to start by telling you about our center, which is the National Center for Culture and Art. Our mission has been to promote social development, cross-cultural understanding, and creativity by utilizing the performing arts nationally and internationally. Our center was actually established by Her Majesty Queen Noor Al Hussein in 1987, and we serve as a resource model for incorporating theater, drama, and dance in all levels of education and for social development purposes, for aesthetic, academic, cultural, and personal development of young people and adults. And since we're talking about women, I would like to say that the senior management in our center is held by women, but the gender equality is here. We have equal male and female workers at the center. Jordan, to put things into perspective for you, Jordan has a population of just over 10 million, with 49% female and 51% male, but it's also a very young population with 63% under the age of 30. And I think this is true for most of the Arab countries in our region. It's a youthful population, and this should be an advantage rather than a burden. And women play a very important role as the primary caregivers, are very educated, with 73% achieving higher education, yet only comprise 14 to 18% of the workforce, unfortunately. But this has many reasons, some of them religious, cultural, but most of the reasons that came out of research is due to lack of efficient and safe transportation system and inequity in wages. Having said that, female teachers, for example, in Jordan constitute 70% at the elementary education level and 57% at the secondary high school level, and almost 60% of schools are headed by women. And in a country like Jordan, where education is really valued, women, the role of women as educators and shapers of values and identities becomes very important. It's worth mentioning that in the cultural scene, most of the festivals and the key projects and sustainable projects are headed by women. And to give an example, there's the Karama film festival managed by and founded by Sousan Darwaze from Jordan. And there's the Amman Contemporary Dance Festival, also founded and managed by Rania Qamhawi from NCCA. Artists like Nadira Imran, a very renowned Jordanian artist, she established a theater company called Ru'a, Vision in Arabic. And also Dr. Majd Al-Qasas, who established the modern theater. So it is interesting that in culture and arts, you see women as the advocates and as the workers with sustainability in their work. Also, theater festivals that are funded by our government, by the Ministry of Culture, usually have steering committees, higher committees, judges, etc. And we have an equal representation of males and females. And I think that's one key aspect of the success of these theaters. Now we have, Jordan, like many countries, has benefited from the tremendous advancement in technology. But yet we live in a fast-changing world of conflicting values and ideologies, and a marked increase in gender-based discrimination and violence, wars, conflicts, and injustices. And during the pandemic, domestic violence globally was on the increase, and poverty was on the increase. So there were many challenges faced by all communities, and one of them is Jordan, of course, because of the pandemic. So as artists, we believe in the role and power of theater to bring awareness on key social issues and to create change and to alleviate stereotype, to achieve social cohesion, cross-cultural understanding, because theater is a very powerful tool. And what is more interesting than, giving the audience an opportunity to hear compelling stories and to have an opportunity also to discuss the issues presented in the play. And this is what we do in our center. We have been known in the region using interactive theater, where we give an opportunity to the audience to ask questions to the actors and to come up with alternative solutions to the problems. Our work in the past 20 years has focused on 5 or 6 of the Sustainable Development Goals, and that's why we feel that we have created an impact on the mindset of the people on different critical social issues. So we address goal number 1, good health and well-being, and we work extensively with UNFPA on issues related to reproductive health and rights, and created the theater-based techniques training, which is used by youth, artists, and educators as a tool to bring about awareness and a change of perceptions on gender-based violence, FGM, civic engagement by youth, women's rights, and other issues. Quality education, and we have worked on introducing drama as a teaching method in schools. So we work very closely with the Ministry of Education to give an opportunity to teachers to learn the skill of creative drama, to teach it in the classroom. And we know that you mentioned that the 21st century skills needed for our young people to be able to deal with the complexities of life, and the arts provide communication, the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. And we believe that theater, creative drama, actually can give the young people these skills to be able to deal with complexities of life. We also, of course, focus on gender equality, peace, justice, and strong institutions, partnerships for the goals. And in this regard, I would like to say that without creating partnerships and joining forces with public, private, and civil society organizations, it is very difficult to achieve our goals in providing people with a quality of life that has a culture of peace and prosperity, and where there is no discrimination between men and women. And we have worked very closely with the Ministry of Education, Culture, Community for Peace Center, and other organizations. On an international level, I can say that collaboration at this stage is much more needed than ever. And working with performing arts centers in different countries, especially through ITI, that has given us the opportunity to network, is more needed than ever. It's a must. And the challenge we face collectively, I guess, is the acquisition of funding, because in the Arab countries, most performing arts actions or festivals are mainly supported by the government, and it's a very small fund. But to have this connection and collaboration with public sector and with the private sector is key, and international organizations like USAID, the European Union, and other countries that provide funding for joint works is extremely essential to sustain, to create sustainability for the arts to be part of people's lives, and to make culture and arts accessible to all. During the pandemic, the challenge, of course, was faced by everyone, and the artists had to stop working. But, you know, artists are creative and innovative and hardworking, so we collectively in Jordan, even the Ministry of Culture decided to continue with its annual festivals, and of course resorted to Zoom and filming of the performances, and they were live streamed via social media platforms, so there was access to people to see around 16 productions, some for children, adults, and youth. And we actually took action to invest in equipment, because it's not easy to perform plays where the audience needs to interact with the actors and get involved in the drama of the play. So we invested in a live production mixer with cameras and cables and a sound system, so that, you know, students also can see the performances. And also we shifted our budgets, so we bought media bundles, internet data bundles, and gave them to young people and underprivileged communities, so they don't have to buy the internet cost. And we were able to reach thousands of people through this method, not only locally, but also regionally. So this was like an opportunity from the COVID pandemic crisis and pain, that, you know, we were able to reach wider audiences and also provide them with the necessary funding. This also gave an opportunity to network with other organizations, to give access to other communities, people who work with the communities, and to students. So we worked more closely with teachers and with the Women's Commission and the Higher Population Council. Now, I would like to say that we are also witnessing an increase and an understanding and an awareness of the value of the arts in people's lives, that alleviate violence and create mutual respect between people globally and also socially and regionally, I mean, within the same country. So what I would say that there is more help and recognition of how the arts should be introduced to refugees. We have about 1 million Syrian refugees, and we were able to reach out to them with theater training and also with performances, so they maintain their sanity, not only for the Syrians, but globally as well. This mental health during the pandemic is extremely challenging, and we were lucky in Jordan that the government allowed us to reach out to Syrian refugees and not only provide them with training on drama and education and theater arts, but also to perform for them. Our Ministry of Education has dedicated 20% of its curriculum to arts and cultural activities, and that was in 2018. So this is another sign for the recognition of the value of the arts in people's lives. I see also more collaboration in the Arab region through the Arab Theatre Institute, which was established in Sharjah, UAE. There is this fund that funds festivals in different Arab countries. Jordan was one recipient of funding for 2 festivals, Lebanon, and other countries as well. We're also witnessing a paradigm shift in some of the countries like Saudi Arabia in its opening up to its public to be to have access to culture and performing arts activities. So on one side, it is quite optimistic, to see these changes happening, but at the same time, what is happening in the world at a humanitarian level is despicable. It's horrible. We're surrounded by wars, we're surrounded by conflict, not only in the Middle East, but globally. And the violence that is happening is a reflection of how we have lost our cultural and traditional roots of goodness, of communication, of collaboration, of respect. So I feel the arts have a major role to play in connecting people. And in closing, I would like to share with you one of our productions. It's a video clip of a song that we produced with the talents that come to the center, because we have also a training programs in theater and dance. So it's produced by NCCA with the Jordanian talents, and it's about empowering women to be part of life and of the workforce. And I always say that women should not be looked upon as the lesser people. We should always look at women as superior, as the makers and shapers of society, shapers of identities. Women can do multitasking, and they have this, by nature, have this caring attitude. So having women participate in all levels of life, political, social, economic, will create a better future for all generations and will create harmony and balance in our societies. So thank you for the opportunity, and I wish you peace and prosperity.
هيو سام هون يلا اسمع يلا روح وردة بألوان مختلفة قوية ما بتنوصف في جملة جميلة ورمز للسعادة عظيمة ما بتنشرى بعملة هي سبب لوجود البشرية الجنة تحت أقدامها وهي مربية أجيال وعنصر فعال هي المرأة يلا وقف لها احترام انت النور اللي بتشوفيه بالظلام مكتوب بالتاريخ قديش كان لك احترام ولسه مازال فلا تحوليه على الزوال انكتب عنك الأشعار انضرب فيك الأمثال ياما صنعت الأسياد وكلك إرادة بذكائك صار المجتمع بأحسن حالة اتحدي لأنك بتقدري واعتمدي على حالك ثقي بنفسك وبنفسك لتاخذي قراراتك
أنا هي نص البشرية نفسي وقصتي هي قراري بإيدي حرية أنا هي نص البشرية نفسي وقصتي هي قراري بإيدي حرية
انت استقلالية انت ست البيت انت الأم انت الأخت انت طرف الخيط خيط النجاح نجاح المجتمع ما تنسي انت نص المجتمع البنت بتدرس بتجيب تفوق دراسي بعديها بتضلها بالبيت تطبخ وتناسي بقولوا عشان العادات والتقاليد ما بتسمح يا عمي ليش التعقيد فيلا قومي وتعلمي واشتغلي بتصير هيك الحياة أفضل افهموني الاقتصاد العالمي يتحسن بدخولك بلدك يتقدم وتطور الأحسن بوجودك مش كل شي بالدنيا بنحكى عنه عيب العيب أولادنا يرموا بالشارع من طفر الجيب كتير بنات تشردت من الحاجة يلا ودينا مع بعض نوقف هذه العادة
أنا هي نص البشرية نفسي وقصتي هي قراري بإيدي حرية أنا هي نص البشرية نفسي وقصتي هي قراري بإيدي حرية أنا
And I have a very good point that was picked up from your sharing, where it basically arts, theater arts, and other forms of art can actually be an amalgam, an amalgam for healing, the wounded soul of a country. We're in right now, we're having this kind of problems with the pandemic. At the same time, there is still a huge concern in terms of peace process, not only in your country, but I think this is also common with the rest of the countries in the world. So we'll discuss more about that later, and let's proceed with our next speaker for today in the panel. So from Jordan, we now proceed to the African region. So our distinguished guest is actually um, a doctor, who possesses a long and varied career in facilitation and designing of participatory communication methodology for development. And by the time of her retirement in March 2020, she was actually a senior lecturer in the Department of Performing Arts and Film at Makerere University in Kampala, where she also received her Master's of Arts degree. She is currently the president of Uganda Center of International Theater Institute and the East African region and the International Theater Arts Juror of ITI. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ms. Jessica Kawa.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, dear colleagues. I'm so humbled that I was found worthy to be part of this panel of the discussions on women in theater and development. My work has been to deal with issues of development at all levels using theater, applying theater to literally every field. Just like most of my predecessors, both men and women, they have tried to use theater to teach people to do things that could elevate them from the levels they are to another level, to transformation of attitudes, also to transformation of their wealth and basic living necessities. As a theater worker in Uganda and in Africa, I've been privileged to have studied in Nigeria, West Africa, a little stint in Ghana and Ivory Coast, Nairobi, Tanzania, South Africa, Stellenbosch, Cape Town. So at least I have a basic understanding of what theater is all about and who is making theater in Africa. Theater in Africa is made by both men and women. And women have a major role, though they don't appear in the limelight, but they are the real people behind the scenes because they are the true storytellers. They are the people who know where it pinches most. They are the people who know how to weave the songs together. The dance movements, most of it is trained by women. For those who have witnessed the performances from Africa, we attest that indeed women are the real dancers. Men are there, they support us. That one is not, it cannot be denied. But the fact that in Africa theater, we find that women have a big role. And today their role is really growing and multiplying because the needs have grown just as it was before. Because now there is a lot of unemployment, disease, and poverty. And these are the areas where women reign supreme because they are the people who manages families. They are the people who bring food to the table. Yes, the men are there as the support. They are the heads of the families. But in real reality, it is the woman in Africa who sustains the African family. Therefore, talking about women in theater and sustainable development, we cannot avoid talking about this African woman in theater. Where is she positioned in theater? What is her role? How can we empower her to be more present and more visible when it comes to aligning herself with other participants of this industry of theater? When it comes to a theater that is to do things for the public survival, it is the woman who is in the lead. I can list a couple of women who have been in theater for development. From West Africa to East Africa, you find that women have been leading. In Uganda, we had late Rose Mboa. When we go to South Africa, we see late Miriam Makeba. When we go to West Africa, we see in Ghana, Sutherland, T.S. Sutherland, Efua Sutherland. And also we see that in Nigeria, many women also have been on stage and have made the theater to live in Nigeria. Yes, the men are there, but when it comes where theater is doing the functional roles, where you need to really have your heart in the art, it is the women that have played a major role. In Tanzania, we have Dr. Mlama, we have Madina. Those women are the ones who train the whole region of East Africa in theater for development, a theater borrowed from Brazil. You can't believe it, but this theater for development has done quite a lot for Africa, and especially the East African region, and in most of the Anglophone Africa where I have participated in the theater making. To find that it is the women who have been on the forefront. In my department at the Performing Arts and Film, you find every time we have had the head of department, a female head of department, things have gone differently because women know how to make networks. And we have seen that our theater makers, the women especially, they are able to make these networks to work. For example, right now we have Dr. Sylvia Nanyonga Tamsuza, she's an associate professor, but this lady has gone ahead and created networks with other countries, other schools of performing arts, and has made way for Ugandan theater artists in general to have access to well-equipped theater appliances and equipment, because when these other teams come from Europe, from America to come and do interchange exercises at our department, they bring along their skills, knowledge, and sometimes leave behind the equipment. And this has enriched our theater in recent times and moved us from one level to the next. And this with now the pandemic, we see that again, the women are doing quite a lot. True indeed, the young men also are really doing a lot online and making theater visible. But who has created these young men? Who has taught them? Mostly are women and also men, but mostly women who have given their time, space to make sure they nurture. That element of nurturing is a typical African element. And you will find that most of the women in theater today, like in Uganda, most of the young women who are making the theater to shine are women, and they are known worldwide. Like we have Kansim in stand-up comedy, who was honored by the Queen of England because of her good art and good performance. But what did it take for her to reach those levels? Commitment, and a lot of sacrifice and a lot of struggle to make her way out. So we are really, today is a very privileged moment for us to be talking about women in theater. Who are these women? Where are they? How are they positioned to carry theater forward now in the light of the pandemic? Especially now all the theaters, most of them are locked down. Is the woman still having the voice? Yes and no, because the woman is now saddled with the responsibility of keeping the children at home, because the children are at home. There is lockdown from time to time. There's a total lockdown. It is that woman who has to take care of the children. And then there comes a limitation on her contribution as a theater artist. The theater artist in Uganda, a woman would be way, way, way ahead, because at least it is well acknowledged that women contribute a lot, because this is our domain. Because from the inception, women are the carriers of the stories. They are the narrators. They are the molders of the storytelling, because they are the people who sing the lullabies to these babies. And you find that women, in spite of the work that they have to bear, they still have time to calm the children at night. Even when a man and a woman, domestic violence, a woman has time to assure the children that it is well, with songs, with the dances, with storytelling. A woman is able to keep the sanity levels of the family with the performing arts. I'm so happy that the world is beginning to see that culture cannot be denied anymore. It is the only thing that can sustain humanity as humane as it ought to be. And a woman's role is becoming more important and significant in theater. In scenic design in Uganda, for instance, it is the young ladies who are behind the scenes making up the costumes, making up the makeups, designing things. The men, yes, they are standing and directing, but why are they standing and directing? That insubordination of the paternal system, where you find that the patriarchal system has shaped women to feel a little bit uneasy handling men and women together, and they always have challenges. But with Ugandan theater, at least where I am, I see that that one is soon disappearing with the emergence of the young artists who are women, because for them, they have risen above. They have taken it from their mothers, and they are now trying to create a new image of Africa by having the performances that previously were a male domain platforms. But now the women are also taking forefront, as I have mentioned, that there are those stand-up comedies with young ladies taking the forefront. What is the role of our government in all this? The government has created room and space and allowed people to excel themselves. Nobody is hindered by culture anymore. It is either self-hindrance or financial hindrance. And that's where the problem is, because women don't have the finances to sustain the productions. They are being left out. But if they had, they were in charge of finances of their properties, which is another case of that millennium development of women having access to development through the property owning. It will be a very fundamental step to sustaining development. We also have problems of understanding the women's need. Also, this is another area where we are lacking in Uganda and in most African parts, that women need support, the government support in terms of funding, ensuring their security, ensuring justice for women in case they have problems in terms of contract breach, and also having contracts that are honored to the very end. We are having issues of copyrights. These copyrights issues, they are global, but in Uganda, they are very pandemic, because a person composes a play and another one hijacks it, and the struggle is the struggle of the fittest to win. So we find that a moment like this to talk to issues of women in Africa and their performance, we need to really look and examine how are they placed socially, how are they placed security-wise, how are they placed, how are they placed in a culture, how are they looked upon, when their voices rise, are they respected by their counterpart? Is the gender policies working towards building this woman to excel herself in the arts? So we find that there are so many multidimensional issues that are keeping the woman back. But whereas the policies are good, whereas the policies of human rights are standing and saying that we have equal rights, the equal rights are limited by lack of owning resources. Women don't own the property, the land on which to develop and build these theater buildings, and they belong to them. There is a friend of mine in Uganda who built a house, and the brother came and said, how can you build a house on our land? You are a woman, you are supposed to be away. And that woman was driven out of her own house. And imagine, this house was supposed to be a business house, and the house was taken over by the brother. So we find that there are those challenges that keep holding the woman back. But on the whole, women are doing well. And we are the creators in Africa. The songs and the dances, they are created by women. The plays, if you see the number of plays coming from Africa, quite of them are written by women, meaning that when we are given opportunities of creation, writing, and designing and choreographing, women are at the forefront. The only trouble is the production part, where it requires a lot of resource and stamina, and being single-heartedly to go into it and forsake your family, because the woman in Africa is also almost the family head when it comes to the sustenance of the children's stability and sanity. So you find that the woman is torn between being the strong director, spending time at the theaters, spending time on the internet all night, and again rising very early to prepare both the husband and the children to go to school. So we need a lot of understanding. We need to talk for this woman in Africa and see how best these women can be positioned by policy, how the government can position them, how they can support them, how can other movements like the La Mamas come in to help the mamas of Africa to come up with more songs, powerful songs like Miriam Makeba, Chaka, Onyekowenu in Nigeria, the singers of West Africa, those powerful voices, the powerful writers, the powerful composers. How can we support them with a movement like La Mama? I'm really happy when I had the presentation from La Mama. I felt very encouraged. I said, here is an organization to partner with and uplift our women. I've seen women work in communities. I've seen women moderate the military, because in 2002, we trained the National Army using theater. We caused those men in uniform to write plays, to write poems, to perform them. And after the exercise, they were able to understand that the way they had gone about the business of fighting the LRA Konyi War was wrong. By torturing the children, they were not doing the right thing. They were just equally like the enemy. And after that exercise, when we were training them in respect of human rights using theater, I saw many of them change. And it didn't take more years before that war came to an end, because theater restores, it restores sanity in all human beings. And when it's conducted by a woman, the woman talks from the mother nature in a woman. It is a beautiful endowment a woman in Africa has, is a natural. And men in Africa, despite what is said of African men, they respect their women because of that mothering thing. And it is that small, weak thing people despise. It is the very thing we should use, capitalize on, to rebuild Africa using theater from the heart of a woman. I will stop here because there is a lot of examples I would give, but it's best I stop here to let dialogue continue. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I can't say many things to underscore the need for positioning the woman in a strong light in terms of production, composition, writing, and dissemination of information, working with women on the continent, women in the diaspora. We Africans, we African theater women, we have the art, and that art is natural in us because it comes from the heart of a mother, a woman who want to see nature preserved, who want to see humanity preserved, who want to see the end of wars that has caused a lot of misery for women. When you go in refugee camps, it is the woman who is suffering. And when you take their theater, you see the women lighting up like flower blooming. You know how the rose opens up. That's how you see the women opening up to theater. It's like the moment now they can speak their hearts. The art and the woman, they are inseparable. We have the art. It is natural. It can be nurtured. It can be skilled up and scaled up to do much more than we have achieved so far. In post-COVID, I believe women are going to be at the forefront, whether on the internet, if they are given a chance of resources, women are going to churn out more art than the art we have seen till date. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, Philip. Thank you for loving us.
Thank you, Jessica. You know, there's one very common thing that I've learned from the Ugandan women, because I've known two Ugandan women as well as a playwright in the WPI. Very strong voice, very passionate always of saying how women in Uganda actually, being the forefront always, despite the odds and despite the challenges. I really salute you, Jessica, for the sharing that you have. So let's discuss later for more sharing, but we'll proceed first to our last but not the least speaker in the panel. And after our next speaker, we will still have reactors, of course. But first, our next speaker, another distinguished woman from Colombia. She is actually an anthropologist that has lived in the last 30 years between theater and scenic arts festival, directing the festival Ibero-Americano de Teatro de Bogota, that programmed the most important companies of the performing arts in venues and in the streets of a city of 9 million persons, with an effort in the development of special projects with vulnerable communities and the building and consolidation of peace in the country. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present to you Ms. Ana Marta de Pizarro, the co-chairperson of Colombian ITI Center.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank Cecile, August, and of course, Victor for organizing this International Women World Theatre webinar, and for giving me the opportunity to represent Colombia and my continent. Congratulations for this bright initiative. As you said, August, I am an anthropologist who believes in theater as a here and now, as a language, a meeting place that respects social, sexual, cultural, religious, and political diversity. It reflects reality, points out paths, instills values, and refreshes traditions. For me, festivals are expressions of cultural diversity. They build social fabric. They are spaces for dialogue. They create links and bridges. They are opportunities to discover one's own and others' cultural world. For the last 30 years, I've lived those two worlds, theater and festivals. I had the fortune to work as an apprentice with a very strong woman, Fanny Miki, a crazy actress, the visionary Argentinian actress that came to our country, renovated theater, and created the Festival Iberoamericano de Teatro de Bogotá in 1988. In 1993, while I was directing the biggest venue of the city of Bogotá, she asked me to work with her in the organization of that version, the fourth version of the festival. But I stayed with her for 15 years until she passed by, learning to select for our audience the best of the world's performing arts and searching for money to bring them to Bogotá. El Iberoamericano, as it is known, is a great festival of performing arts that transforms Bogota every 2 years during 17 days into an irreverent, cathartic, and convivial space in a country that was known for its violence. Notwithstanding its name, the festival has never been only Ibero-American or only theater. From the first version, companies from around the world were invited and from all performing arts. After Fanny's death, I took on my shoulders the festival and directed 4 versions as general director and 1 as artistic director. My duty was to maintain what is known as Fanny's legacy. That means give international artists the competence to remain interested in coming to our country, maintain its great prestige so that sponsors continue to support it and design a quality and diverse program for our public. Every edition of the festival requires the same ingredients, but the most important from my experience is character against failure and obstacles. I needed to print a personal stamp on it, and without turning it into a political event, we as a festival that is a carnival of scenic arts at the same time established that part of the program had to reflect the fundamental problems that afflict contemporary human beings without losing poverty, combining it with big spectacles of theater in venues and in the streets, dance, circus, and cabaret. By doing this, we were able to include sustainable development goals regarding environmental issues, gender equality, peace, education, and social justice addressing vulnerable communities. I knew that the festival was a diverse and inclusive event, but it was necessary to take another step in our commitment and give visibility to artistic processes in populations at high risk that have found in the performing arts a process of individual and collective strengthening. In order to achieve this, we use theater as a tool of transformation and change, or as a mirror of the society that reflects and envisions situations and conflicts to nail down answers in an artistic way. For these purposes, we developed different strategies through the School of the Festival. To reach young population, we made several alliances with the government of the city, for example, working in the poorest zones in a project called Young People Coexisting in Bogota, with the Jesuits in a special musical program with rock and hip hop bands, with the Ministry of Education taking to Bogota 300 teachers from conflict zones. With them, we held workshops, master classes, and in the nights took the participants to the festival activities that include theater and also something that's very interesting in the festival, that is the tent where always musical bands, Colombian musical dance are performing. With the Center for Historical Memories and the Mothers of Soacha, we developed a resilience project with puppets. With the Unit for Comprehensive Care and Reparation to Victims, we brought 90 young people from this very outside of Bogota to an intensive workshop in order to perform in a great show at the biggest park of the city under the direction of La Fura del Spaus. We not only improved their skills, but more important, with the recognition of the public, we helped to protect their lives. With USAID and AgdiVoca, we brought Afro leaders from around the country and companies from the Caribbean and the Pacific Coast to participate in a special program that included workshops, seminars with national and international Afro artists, and also we took them to the festival to see very important companies from around the world. Some of them have never before attended theater. For the past 3 years, I have been living in Cartagena. My life at that festival ended. And today I am working with Victor on the reconstruction of the Colombian ITI Center with special programs that in these challenging times are still virtual, showcasing our musical diversity, invigorating South-South cooperation through the Cultural Diplomacy Project proposed by Cecile and Hedbaser in conjunction with universities from Andorra, Brazil, and Colombia. Also, with the Youth Ambassadors Program promoting cultural diplomacy and the African cultural heritage in our country. Our relation with Philippines is very strong. We are partners, as Victor acts as Associate Director of the SDG Festival Forum in Manila. And finally, we are compiling several works in theater in conflict zones, as because of the armed conflict, there is a dramaturg of violence and resilience, which we want to make visible inside Colombia and throughout the globe. And of course, our participation in all the ITI activities for the day of the commemoration of the Theater Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ana Marta, for that wonderful sharing. In fact, the organization of the forum this coming October in the Philippines, particularly towards the SDGs, is very, very important for us. That the role of theater and arts is actually being highlighted. In the UN, though, art as part of culture is actually being recognized now as the fourth pillar of sustainability. So this now actually brings to the forefront the role of various artists that are being highlighted now in achieving sustainable development, and at the same time how we can help, not only government but also people and other sectors in the community and in the country to be a contributor, towards achieving the SDGs, from our small work towards a bigger and comprehensive contribution. Now let's proceed with some reactions from our participants, co-participants in the forum. Our reactors will actually provide us like 2 to 3 minutes reactions on the sharing of our speakers. So basically sharing or reacting on how, based on the sharing of our speakers, how now women and theater arts become a tool or become foot soldiers at the same time, a channel or a medium of achieving and contributing to SDGs. So first reactor that we will have the PhD student for the New Delhi University, Ms. Swati Simha. Ms. Swati?
Yeah, she's one of the youth ambassadors for cultural diplomacy from India.
Okay. Ms. Swati, are you?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to interact with such stalwarts from all over the world. Truly delighted to be amidst all of you. What struck me the most in the last couple of years with respect to women in India was how much they participated in their, they were at the forefront of asserting their democratic rights, be it against government and its policies, or against corporations, or against local governments, or against global, and how women have stood at the forefront. And we saw this before the lockdown began, before coronavirus began, how we had one of the largest protests where women were the sole participants of asserting their democratic rights against repressive laws. And was wondering, and I thought I would pose this question, and generally what I'm also trying to grapple with is there are how the power dynamics at the international level and the power dynamics internal to each of the marginalized countries and nationalities that the global south comes from. But thanks to the internet, internal marginalizations are no more like can be foreshadowed, and they've come to the fore. My question is, how can we democratize the global stage and bring to international attention the layers of marginalization, and to have a truly global movement where we address all of the questions that are of global importance, and at the same time keep in mind the different dynamics of power that's operating at the international stage. So I was wondering, and I'm sure many of the artists have grappled with this question and how they think through this and what ways they tackle this.
All right. Anyone from the panel who would be, willing to respond to Swati's question? Anyone from the panel?
August, if I may, August, no, I mean, I'm not going to respond as well, but maybe we can listen to the reactions, and while people are also reflecting, because some of the other subsequent reactions might also resonate. It also allows people to think through more meaningfully. Swati, it's not to
thank you,
silence the question, but I think just to provide some reflection time.
I think we also have. I think we also have somebody who's Filipina, who's now working as an ethnic minority theater group, but very much involved right now. Our panelists talked about violence, and right now in America, you're having the hate crime, and the most affected besides the blacks is now the Asian Americans. And how can, in the cultural arena, like Putri, who is really a Muslim artist, and in a sense for a while naturally had suffered prejudice. It's a very natural thing, and that's why we wanted this interaction with the Muslim communities, because we can really develop collaboration and common concerns. So maybe Putri may like to comment on the cultural action being undertaken with regard to this violent, let's say, resistance against Asian Americans.
Yeah, Putri Rangka Manis Noor is actually a Mindanao artist in diaspora based in New York City and a resident artist of La Mama. She's also the founder and artistic director of Kinding Sindao Heritage Foundation. So Putri is actually with us tonight. Let me check. Yeah, Putri is still connected with us. Yes.
Good evening for the Filipinos. Assalamualaikum everywhere. And thank you very much, Cecile, August, and everyone, that this event is very, very, gives very big hope for us internationally, especially we're facing this uncertainty. And by the way, I'm also a frontliner of the epicenter. I'm a nurse in New York, and one of those Filipino nurses who raids COVID in the very early part without PPE, without proper PPE. And thank God I still survived. Yeah, the reason why I'm in diaspora is because I'm a nurse. So that alone is part of violence against women from the very start in the Philippines. Why we have to export our nurses when we're the #1 exporter of nurses in the whole world, when 7 out of 10 Filipinos die without seeing any medical help. So I'm a Maranao. I grew up in the oral tradition of the Maranao people, where we have the bayok, the darangin, and all the beautiful music of Kulintangan Agong. But when I went to school, I have to keep that story behind me and study the iambic sonnet forms of Shakespeare, just like that's Sister of Pakistan saying that everything is referred to Shakespeare. So here in the US, I came here because I said I'm a nurse, and I'm embraced by Ellen Stewart and became a resident artist at La Mama. And La Mama gave a whole support in producing our story. And the stories that we're producing are all the stories that are not even part of the Philippine history, or basically ignored and marginalized. So I am connecting what is the situation right now here in US, the anti-violence. In fact, I'm going to Chinatown at 1 p.m. today to be part of that demonstration, wearing my mask and my face shield. This anti-violence movement in the US, it's high time for us to really heighten it, just like Black Lives Matter, because it has been existing. It has been existing in America since the coming of the railroad worker, the coming of the immigrant agricultural worker from the Philippines, the railroad worker from China. But it doesn't start there. It starts from with the Philippines. It started in 1896 when we were sold to USA together with Puerto Rico, Cuba, Hawaii, and Guam under the Treaty of Paris. And then Mindanao is one of the areas that has been very much targeted because our ancestral land was mandated to be registered by USA under the presidential decree. So this has been a history that has been coming again and again. So one of our production is Parang Sabil. It's about one of our production that La Mama really promoted it and embraced to tell the world that this happened in the Philippines, and it is part of this violence that is still going on here. So it was the massacre of the indigenous people in Mount Budaho, Sulu. So we produced that, and La Mama produced it, and we put it on the theater, and then again and again we use it as part of that historical reference. That theater can tell the world what has been suppressed by history, suppressed by the colonizers. So now, again and again, this surface in these symptoms of pernicious, a part of what they call it, part of the white supremacists, the control of neo-colonization, that it surfaces in a way that the Asians has to be classified as model minority here in America, that Asians are supposed to be very intelligent, people who are not supposed to be answering back, people who are very modest. So that minimizes the issues, that is the issue of violence against Asians. Now in theater, it's only in art form that all this can be popularized, all this can surface. So La Mama has again and again presented our show. The other event that happened in history in Lanao is the 1903 massacre in Bayang, Lanao by the Blue Coat soldiers. So that is still part of the white supremacists. And that story has never been out in history in the Philippines or here in USA. So through theater production, we're able to tell the world that there is this event that happened in 1903. And that is suppressed as an information. But through art, we're able to inform the world that history has to be rewritten. History has to be written from the point of view of the people that are not given the capacity to write it in English. Because the only only things that are written in English can gain popularity. Now theater overruled that, because in our show, in Kinding Sina production, we don't even use language. We don't use English at all. We sing in Maranao if it's a Maranao production. We sing in Tiboli if it's Tiboli production. We sing in Tausug if it's Tausug production. We, as much as faithfully, transfer the story on stage here at La Mama in the language that is used by the people. And then there were people saying, why don't you put it in English? I said, well, opera is sung in Italian. Why do I have to speak in English for you to understand me? You are going to search and find my language so that you will understand me. Not because you are in the dominant, we will cater with you. And there was even question that your story is so raw. Fine, I cannot.
Pottery's muted.
Americans will not be in silence anymore. Yesterday, after the New York NYC Dance Festival conference, we created a statement that would influence the rest of the theater world. Thank you very much for giving me this chance, this particular moments to express what I have here in US. Thank you.
Thank you, Puti, for sharing your stories and your experiences. I understand how emotional this is for you because it's of the ongoing violence right now on Asian in the US. But hopefully you stay safe out there. So let me proceed with the other reaction first from our colleague. She's actually the Vice President of the Women Players International Philippine Chapter, and at the same time the co-chairperson of the ITI Social Change Network Committee, Ms. Dessa Quesada Pam.
Yes, this will be quite succinct, no? But thank you, Mia, Saman, Lena, Jessica, and Ana Marta for just the wealth of wisdom. And actually, I feel, Swati, that Potri also responded to your question in her own praxis in New York. So it's really beautiful that, you know, how conversations can happen in many layers about democratizing these global spaces, but also revealing the many layers of marginalization that we have all experienced. But we did organize just at the same time last night a forum for women in the performing arts and sustainable development. So I just wanted to connect. And what I find is really just the rich resonance of the experiences, of the stories, of the best practices in relation to like the 5 P's related to sustainable development goals. You know, how theater has become a potent source for nurturing and opening communities, you know, in relation to people. And then the concern for the planet, for peace, prosperity, and partnership. So much of what has been shared is really the role of multiple stakeholders. But also, I think the constant move of creatives, of like saying, you know, who are in this circle and who are not. And I think there is just that constant sort of, I think the orientation, and whether it is natural of women or something that is also just culturally reproduced. I think it's hard to essentialize a lot of these things, but nevertheless, it is happening and strongly in our local and almost in the regional level. So I think my question in relation to a couple of things, no, social media, we say has really democratized the space, but it also has congested the space. There really are just competing values. On one hand, we can use that as a space to promote values of equity, of positive representation, of justice, but it is also used equally, if not more loudly, by a lot of people who espouse violence, who perpetuate, you know, a lot of like the oppressive and exploitative terms and representation. And so how do we allow social media to render the feature, spotlighting, so to speak, like the work that we do, and not just be part of the marketplace, with the rest of those voices. And second, I think internationally, as ITI, as somehow members of ITI, how do we use ITI as that platform? You've spoken about cultural diplomacy, but what does that mean? What in your mind would be perhaps in the next year or two should be the priority in terms of strengthening the sharing of resources, but also strengthening this platform that we have established? But again, great respect for the breathtaking and wonderful work that you all are doing and have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dessa. Ma'am Cecile.
Well, actually, I think we should ask the interaction to begin among our panelists and to connect also with commentators. But this actually energizes our common concerns, and it really points to the need of partnerships, of collaborating. Like, for instance, Jessica was saying about resources. And we just want to give 2 examples that could probably be adopted. To do World Theater Day, because of the success that we had undertaken, we were able to seek a presidential proclamation from the president at that time, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, who created a presidential proclamation expanding not just a World Theater Day to just commemorate it, but allowing interagency collaboration and directing funds through a partnership between the National Commission for Culture and the Arts and an NGO like the ITI to be able to work together officially. Now we showed there are women now working in government. If government also takes a policy to really put women artists or even just artists in positions for cultural tourism and development programs, then they would have really the communication skill. The problem really is, how do you allow people to be informed about their rights, their duties, what are the possibilities, which are kept really in a very limited way. It is not innovative, it is not creative, it is not direct, which artists can really provide that thing. So there are many collaboration that can be executed or worked out, and maybe our panelists can interact also with our reactors to determine what can be very viable partnerships that can be determined now. Jordan spoke so well on the issue of health. We are now just broadcasting also a health drama that popularizes how to really take care of your health, or especially reproductive health. So there are ways of connecting and exchanging. So if we can open that up to determine possible collaboration and exchanges.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, Lina, I think Lina Atel can somehow respond to some of the concerns that was raised. Thank you, Lina.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for your interventions. Amazing. We are all victims of stereotype, and the media has a fantastic role of exaggerating the radicalism versus the good the goodness of humanity. And Muslims, of course, with all the radicalization and the things that happened in Iraq and in Syria. So, you know, the media highlighted that. So we became victims. The way to deal with this is that, first of all, the media needs to highlight the contributions of Muslim people, not only Arabs, but from all over the world, who have contributed to science, technology, medicine, especially in the US. You know, like I watch TV and I see all the frontline workers, scientists or doctors, media specialists are from an Arab origin, Muslims. So why not highlight that? Another thing is, we as people who believe in humanity and in equity and equality are not using the opposite narrative to radicalization. We need to be stronger in addressing all the negative aspects of either our religion or our culture and arts. You know, we have also been, the image of an Arab woman or a Muslim woman is oppressed and, you know, beaten by her husband, forced into marriage. This is all a lie. It happens in radicalized communities, but it is not our culture. Our culture is beautiful. That's why you see people like, sorry to say that, like me and millions of other women who were brought up in a culture of equality, love of other people, serving other people, you know, with no discrimination. And this exists, you see, we just need to highlight it. The other thing is a cultural policy. Of course, what happened in the past, look, I'm ancient, I've been living for, I was born in the 60s, so I have witnessed the transformation from social cohesion and collaborations into radicalization, into segregation. And of course, there are many reasons for that. We don't want to go into politics, but it's all about control, about the economies, about natural resources being taken and hijacked and all of this. But what I have seen, where is the value in us being uniformly, all of us having shared values, is education. Quality education. Education has deteriorated tremendously in the past 20, 30 years. Even in the developed so-called world, the funding for art in schools has diminished, you know, and people in the US know that. So education and arts in education are extremely important, because you see, when young people are exposed to music, drama, theater, dance, they become better human beings, because theater is about the complexity of human behavior. It is a reflection of behavior. So young people learn to be compassionate and to believe in the common values of human beings. That's why you see artists globally. We've done co-productions with American artists, with Finnish artists, and when we meet together, all boundaries vanish. You know, I'm not being naive, believe me. And I tell you, when people work together, see each other in an artistic frame, it's amazing what happens. We all feel the same things and we all share the same values. So we need to scale up. And like Cecile said, how can we magnify and scale up this kind of artist exchange, you know, residencies, meeting each other and creating stories? Because the lady said, you know, we need to show the stories. Language is not that important if it's visual and can tell compelling stories of human suffering. Who wants to live in a world where human beings are suffering? Nobody. But it's ignorance. Some countries worked hard on making their people ignorant because they're easier to control. They're easier to make them violent when they need them. You know, we have to be smart and as artists, because we're lucky to be artists, really, and create a critical mass to counter violence, and all people feel more comfortable with people who look like them. This is like human nature. But what's the word? The scary thing is when they tell you you have to be with people who look like you, because that is a better way of life. This is horrible, and this is what's been happening, is that you should always, collaborate and strengthen people who look like you, who have the same beliefs as you. And this is wrong, and history has shown us that this doesn't work, and the world will collapse if we continue like that. Sorry to have taken so long, but ignorance is a vice, and we need to work on making people aware of things.
Actually, that's the thing. It's a matter of really communicating and educating people as well. So we go back to how our role in terms of theater, we communicate to our community.
Yeah.
Let's not look at the bigger picture. Let's just look on the immediate community that we have, that we serve. Communicate and educate. Now, Jessica is actually actually would like to share as well, or add to the point that you shared, Lina. So, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and also thank you, Lina. I couldn't help but to jump in. I like us to develop more on the issue of finding the alternative narrative. If there is these oppressions which have been laid up, those layers of marginalization, what do we do? What I do when I'm training for community empowerment, especially for women and the youth, what I do is I aim at maximizing in the person realizing their own meaning in a situation, their position, how they can take up what they have and utilize it to save themselves. I normally don't point them to any other body, but I work hard using theater, playing out, showing the people, causing them to see that they have a role to play in coming out of marginalization. And it is true, as August has just said, how do we zero in? That is the zeroing in I want, where you find a personal meaning. How do we use theater now as theater workers to get the people to maximize the opportunities they have so that they can come up? I avoided saying these things, my practice, how I do community work and empowerment, because it's a very long and laborious process. But now the talk is done, it's on the table. I feel that let us project those positive things. But we can't project it. We have to project it with the people who are in the situation. For example, our sister says they are marginalized right from their countries. And now even in America, they are being marginalized. Yes, it is true. But as individuals, how are we pulling ourselves out? Are we going to keep lamenting? Theater must bring a person to that level of recognition where you were, how you got to be there. How can you now come out of where you were? That is the theater we should be working at. Theater that we point out that there is climate change. How have we gotten to this place? What are the things we have done before? Theater must work as a torchlight, torching and lighting the place where things have gone wrong, and people being able to pick up their individual responsibilities. Because we always tell people when we are training in human rights that as much as you are claiming your rights, you must also remember there are obligations that go with this particular right, the right of other people. So we cannot avoid with theater to talk about the issues. We must light the root cause of the issues and get people to own up some of those things where they have sustained, even where we have been written in certain positions as women, for example. It is up to us to decide that we are going to help women to see that even the weak parts they see in us are the strongest parts that we can use to overthrow the world. So, yes, those are the better things we can. So we have to really, yes, we have to get to those levels using theater, and theater is in a very good position because that's applied theater. It is a process theater where you use every knowledge you know to get people to understand themselves first. Who are we? How did we come here? And how can we move from here to the next level? Nobody is going to give you freedom on a silver platter. You have to struggle for it. If it is peaceful means using theater, then we have to be the searchlights that search the past, bringing it to the present, and forecasting the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Can I ask a question among our panelists and the people with us? Because we're talking about violence and conflict and climate and all the crises we are facing. Can we be a force to present the platform for dialogue that can reduce the aggression or the violence that's happening? For instance, in Africa, can we get ourselves as a core? Victor knows we're trying desperately to bring to the table or in the festival a North and South Korean artists together. In Africa, there are those problems as well, you know, with the hunger and the situation there. How can we bring them? Can we think of the people, the artists who can become strong voices? We have Jordan, we have Pakistan, we even have an Indian. Can they begin to talk about rapprochement? Because there is, of course, the problem of territorial question between India and Pakistan. Can we begin? Can we really provide the pathway? Can we be involved? The Israel-Palestine thing, can this, because I know I lost my father during the Japanese war. I never saw him. I hated the Japanese. But when I was in exile in La Mama, because I worked with a brilliant Japanese designer, I worked with a lot of Japanese artists, I was able to cast away my anger and my hatred and my, all this damning anger. And it was arts that allowed this rapprochement, this kinship. It's very important that we take those steps. Can India and Pakistan as artists begin to show the way there in Africa, in Asia? We have to start it. We have to dream that we can provide the platform for dialogue instead of arms. We can provide the conscientizing force of the arts. Can we get that commitment from you through your influence? And well, I know UNESCO and the ITI is for peace, but we have to be more direct on this point of providing the rapprochement. We started in Manila having artists claiming, all the claimants of the West Philippine Sea and the China Sea. Can we get people to begin to respect the conventions that we sign? Those are key things that we have to make people understand. And can we directly be involved in this instead of just the craft and the art? We're talking of social cohesion and everything, but you're all welcome to be part of this agonizing thing. Victor and I talk almost every night how to work this all out. But we believe the arts can make it happen, and women are essential force for rapprochement.
All right, thank you, Mom Cecile. That's a big challenge actually for our panelists to respond to. And actually, Anna might probably have some insights or views that Anna Marta, would you like to share some insights?
Yes, yes. What I was going to say is that we as a country also have lived all this terrible way of the people seeing us. You can remember that it was very short ago that people used to think that Colombians were narco traffickers. So we have lived with that, and I think that we have worked a lot with education, with the media, but I think that in this case, the theater festivals are very important. They are very important to show what's happening in the country, what it is. I feel, for example, that the best ambassadors that in that terrible days we have were the artists that came to perform here in our country. That when they return, they told the people, they talk about what was happening in our country and how it was a different country, and they can talk about the beauty of the country, but also but also what happened with the people, how was the people behaving, what we have in music, for example. And I think, of course, arts is our best tool. We have to learn to use this tool to democratize the situation in all over the world.
Thank you, Anna Marta. And maybe Mia can also share as well, her insights and views. I recently seen a show in La Mama by Elizabeth Hess. It's about the title is Spoiled, and it is about gender violence, and of course the role of men and women. So maybe Mia can also share some thoughts to what we're discussing.
In relation to sort of, I totally obviously agree with so much of what has been said, but I also think that, we talk about art, but even art feels like such an exclusive experience, right? And, who is in that room with you, because it is sort of constricted by this idea of space. And I agree that festivals, education, all of this allows us on the ground, within our respective regions to do the work that needs to be done, but to really create this global movement, as you say, Swati, and as so many people have mentioned, it has to, yes, start from that grassroots level, but we need, I think, as much as you said, Dessa, that technology has played a negative role in the division and pulling us apart, we need as artists to use it as a role to bring us together. And for us to have truly global impact, I think we need to sort of embrace it and look at it as a new tool for us to really have true impact. And so, yes, we must continue to do the performances, we must continue to do these festivals, but we also need to connect to each other at this grassroots level to create this global digital network so that we can share this content with each other, so that it goes beyond sort of our own borders, regional borders, but it has a much bigger impact, and it has the potential to do that. We've seen COVID has allowed us in many ways for us to see that potential, and we have to kind of like grab a hold of it and as women here find ways to continue to connect like we are today, and try to be rigorous and vigilant about using, I think, this new tool that will really take us to another level of impact.
Thank you, Mia, for that insight. Now, for this question, I would like to raise this as well to Saman, because now with the concern of leveling up our connections, our network, and we've been starting to focus on helping our community by providing education, especially for women across the globe, to be educated and advocate the women empowerment and then fight against gender violence. But then again, there's a question: do we also educate and then connect and communicate with the perpetrators of violence in the government? For example, is there a way wherein, we always address the victims, but then again, we have to make a strategy, I think, to address and then communicate with the perpetrators, because there's actually a movement here in the Philippines wherein men are actually the advocates of violence against women. They are the one in the front line. There's a huge organization here that is that started a movement that men are in the forefront, and this actually started with reaching out and educating the perpetrators of the violence, especially for wives and for children. So what do you think about this, Saman?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think very important issue. But like you, I work in the government sector, so I would try to look at the things from a macro level. Now, one very interesting observation after today, listening to so many women, we all think that we are living in a patriarchal society. There is oppression against women. We need to educate. But this is what I have been observing. Now, it's almost 15 years for me working on the key government positions. But wherever I go, my basic argument is, who perpetuates biases against women? These are predominantly women. This is such an interesting observation by me, because I have been participating in the international platforms, conferences and all. But like, trace any country and trace any violence, it goes back to the collective human behavior. And mostly all these behaviors and the patterns, they originate from the houses where women are in the driving positions, being mothers, maybe being sisters or wives or whatever role. So when women talk about oppression and women talk about biases, I mean, it is so interesting to note that they actually originate from some women out there, somewhere. Now, look at me, my father, I have 7 siblings, including myself, because in Pakistan, like nearly 20-30 years back, people would tend to have larger families. Now the trend has changed and the number of children is reduced to 2 to 3. But like when I was a child, the number would not be less than 7 or 8 per family. And I have 5 sisters. So my father gave an equal opportunity to everyone to educate themselves as much as possible in life. And the result is all my sisters are in different professions, teacher, pharmacist, and they are doing whatever they like. And their husbands are equally supporting them. But the problem is that on a larger scale, I think these are the women as mothers who inculcate biases into their kids. And somewhere we need to address it. Otherwise, it will remain the same no matter. At some point in time, men are becoming our advocates. And the second thing is, which is like very important, what can we do to connect the community and the humanity on a collective level? Now, one movie is released, let's say in India, it is an overnight instant fame. And there are like creative platforms like Netflix, for example. Nearly all Pakistanis would wait for the next best hit to come. All the best hits by, let's say, any famous singer in America or UK is an instant sensation in Pakistan, no matter it is an English song or an Arabic song, or sometimes it is in Philippines. Mm-hmm. The same music sensation is an instant hit, no matter a Korean song. Mm-hmm. All the K culture, I know everything. I even know the makeup trends. So this is the beauty of the social and digital platforms. Any new summer collection, winter collection, new perfume, new tie, new trend, new telephone set, instant hit. Look at Apple phone, look at Samsung. People would wait for the next set and design to come. next fashion hit. I also know, despite that I'm not as fashionable and I'm not as rich, but still I would be knowing all the global trends. So I think social and digital platforms, though it has a darker and negative side, I truly agree. I truly respect that observation. But still, if we look at the positive side of the social and digital networks, I think it has brought the whole world closer. There is some instance of brutality in some part of the world. People are united to condemn it instantly. There is now this global pressure which all the countries are facing. So, for example, people like you and me, no matter how peaceful they are living their normal lives, but they also know that something bad is happening and that needs to be condemned. So, all the social comments, they do have a presence, they are noticed, and there are reactions by the global leaders or by whosoever instantly, because they think now global community is watching them and no one can escape that, kind of oversight. It might be invisible, but it is very strong to feel. And I think we all feel the presence of it. So this is the beauty of it. And I guess, this is one beautiful aspect coming out of the Corona crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Saman. That was, a lot of things to think about in terms of, digital media, technology, and then how do we transcend now the influence of media in terms of our values, in terms of our culture. Now, before we go to we only have a few minutes left, but before we go to our, last message or wrapping up of the forum, I would like to request Victor Sebic to at least somehow give some insights as well. The only, thorn among the roses that are here in the in the forum. And he's one of the mastermind of this.
He's the
forum
gender
as well. So
equity, gender equity.
Well,
yes.
I am a token man on this panel, a sort of thorn amongst very many roses. But in order not to say anything simply theoretical, but very practical, some of you may know that I have been working with Cecile for 35 years. And I think Cecile will attest that on my many appearances at various international meetings in Manila and also in other parts of the world, I have always been surrounded by very strong women. And that was simply because, and by the way, our great festival and forum on sustainable development goals in October, as a matter of fact, owes its existence to a very strong Colombian lady called Paula Caballero, who was at her time Director of Environment at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Colombia, and who I had the privilege of working as my #2 for 10 years from London. So I think that in itself, we have a pillar of the United Nations system, Sustainable Development Goals, again, invented by a woman. And I think it is in no way coincidence. I lived for some time in Africa, and I admittedly mainly in West Africa. You may not know, but economic power in Ghana, where I spent a lot of time, is firmly in the hands of women. Again, you have seen that some of the members of my own organization, South-South Cooperation Council, are all women. Ana Marta Pizarro, who is my co-president of Colombian ITI, and then Saman Rai, and then now Swatwa as well, and of course Lina Atel. So I think it is simply a fact of life that when women's wisdom and multitasking and all the things that Saman was telling us, and of course Lina as well, is absolutely right. And if men do not suffer from a stupid superiority complex, I think they will recognize that it is extremely wise to be surrounded by strong women who can actually make things happen. And I think you will also you'll agree that only somebody like Cecile, and I don't think it is quite a normal thing what you're doing, Cecile, will organize a festival, a forum, an art camp for visual arts, and a workshop, not only in Manila, but also in 2 other locations. I think you need imagination of a woman to make something like that possible. So I really speak from my experience. It is not just to give you a few nice words, as you are all women. it is a fact that women make miracles.
Thank you so much, Victor, for that wonderful, wonderful message, and always the support for women, in theater, and for all the artists and in the world. So, I do apologize. In as much as we would like to, stay on and talk and discuss and share, but unfortunately, we have a few minutes left. So, Dessa, I would like to call Dessa Quesada Palm again to give the closing message as the co-chairperson of the ITI Social Network. Change Networks.
Thank you, August, and like you, Victor. I think hats off, scarves off to Cecile, who has just been an untiring and definitely someone who, despite, as she would say, she's overcome COVID-19 more recently and is legally blind. She's just a force to reckon with, and she makes things happen. So again, thank you, Cecile, for just providing that leadership and just like creating the inroads for a lot of the things that we have seen. But I think again we go back just to the power of theater to tell stories, and these stories might mirror. Some of these stories might ask questions. These stories might provide alternative visions of the world that we wish to happen. And these stories may allow for us to, again, just, cross over cultural contexts, belief traditions, and all of that, so that we can find some form of resonance with our own experiences, but also the inspiration to change the way society has molded and perpetuated systems of oppression and exploitation and inequity. And I think today we have just heard just an immense treasure. It's really like a deep treasure of so many things that are already happening on the ground in various contexts. And I hope that our audiences will become more curious to find out more about these various initiatives. We have seen also that, due to the pandemic, we have opened another tool for us to be able to sustain our theater work, while we are also addressing issues of sustainable development, which are not abstract concepts, but rather are about stories of people that are in our communities. So with the digital platforms, it has allowed us to connect in new and interesting ways. But we also know that it is a space that we need to claim and we need to have a stronger voice in. But at the heart of everything that we have also shared is the role of the grassroots. We cannot do this only among leaders or among those who are already in power, but it has to go back to strengthening people in our respective communities, and always with the eye of inclusion. And so even as we find our connections of identities, of positions in our societies, it always has to include the question of who else is not included in this space, who else has a story to tell, that we need to be able to open those spaces in the same ways that all from La Mama to the festivals, to the education programs, to people in government and to our respective schools and programs have allowed. So again, thank you very much, August, Cecile, and Victor for being at the forefront of organizing this in behalf of ITI, UNESCO, but also Mia, Saman, Lina, Jessica, and Ana Marta, just for the generosity of wisdom and spirit, and also for Swati and Potri, whose voices we have heard and questions that will continue to resonate in our hearts. Again, happy World Theater Day and World Theater Week, and also a celebration of the power of women throughout this Women's Month.
Thank you, Dessa. Salamat.
Thank you.
Gid. Yeah.
Thank you.
And for the rest of the panelists, thank you so much for joining. Ma'am Cecile, Victor, Mia, Lina, Ana Marta, Jessica, Swati, Saman, Putri, Did I forget anyone? No, I hope not. Thank you so much. And again, for this wonderful
Thank
forum.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
By the way,
Thank
we
you
will be
very
having
much.
a
Group
women
photo.
conference, a
Thank
women
you.
international
Thank you very much.
conference in 2022. So watch out for our announcement, and I hope all of you that are here in the panel can join the women conference in Montreal. That will be in June 2022. So we'll be reaching out to you and hope you can attend. Thank you so much.
And we hope that you will
Thank you.
all be in Manila. We hope you will all be in Manila.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Let's have a group photo, please. First,
Okay.
let's have a photo
Okay.
before and
Everybody smile. I'm taking it now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, just to have a safety shot, let me get one safety shot for for this group photo. All right. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Lina, you might
Yes.
Stay safe.
I know, Lina, stay
Bye.
safe.
Thank you. Salamat po to all the participants from different companies from our country, and of course, all our fellow brothers, sisters in the community of artists of the International Theatre Institute, led by President Mohammed Al-Akam, and our very dynamic Director General, Swiss distinguished poet playwright Tobias Bianconi. Thank you for the message, as well as UNESCO Asia Pacific Bureau Director Tholstrup that looks after the Philippines, and also, of course, for all who support us. Maraming salamat, muchas gracias to all of our partners. There's, of course, from the ITI Social Change Network to the Earth Savers, UNESCO Artists for Peace, to the Women Playwrights, to Climate Institute, South-South Cooperation Council, and most particularly NCCA, which is now headed by Chairman Nick Lisaso, that has been partnered by a presidential proclamation together with the Philippine Center of the ITI.